then. So, but I think the Chinese kind of like more like top level officials are trying to not to do that. And also like the U.S. Your question, U.S. Action or like U.S. willingness or unwillingness to get involved in the Senkaku Islands. To some extent, you're right. I mean, like they don't want to actually kind of see any provocation from both sides. But at the same time, currently the Japanese properly administered the Senkaku Islands. That any physical change made by China would be regarded as the kind of violation of status quo. So in that case, United States made it clear that they are going to intervene. So I mean, like this is going to be a deterrent.
Since nobody responded to the first question, maybe I could just say that I co-chair the China-Singapore Forum and the Japan-Singapore Symposium. And I'm actually worried because I think it is very unhelpful for our Chinese and Japanese friends to demonize each other, which is what they are doing, you know. So when I go to Japan, my Japanese colleagues say to me that Singapore should join Japan in confronting China because China doesn't believe in the rule of law. China wants to impose its hegemony on the region, and the only way to face Japan is to show of force. When I go to China, they see Prime Minister Abe as a troublemaker, somebody who wishes to revise the peace constitution, who wishes to repudiate the Murayama statement on the Second World War and the Kono statement on comfort women, who goes to pay homage to the war criminals at the Yasukuni Shrine. So each side is trying to and this worries me. So I think that we in Southeast Asia, the ASEAN countries, who are friends of both China and Japan, can maybe play a very small role. Although I agree with Prof. Wang that our influence is very marginal, but we can play a very small role in telling China and Japan not to demonize each other, and just to remind them about their common interests, and to reduce this mutual suspicion and antagonism.
Okay, sorry. Hi, good evening, panel. My name is Samuel. I'm an economics major, year 2 from Tembusu College. Okay, my question is actually directed towards the entire panel on a certain trend that's quite common to both China and Japan. Because the demographics of both China and Japan are that of aging nations. But typically and traditionally, the conception of war is that between nations with large proportions of youths, with a large youth bulge. And you could argue with this is pretty much the case of the situation in World War I. So do you think that it will be, has there ever been a precedence of two aging societies ever going to war with one another? And do you think that aging actually ironically acts as a force of stability in East Asia in the long run?
Aging doesn't guarantee greater rationality, you know.
But wars are simply fought by the young.
Wars throughout history are declared by older people and fought by young people. Maybe that's why we call formations of soldier infantry. They are infants.
But there's a lack of infants in the modern world of East Asia.
Infants that we old people send to fight each other and kill each other. But you're not a serious question. Is that a serious question?
Actually, all right.
So, by the way, be careful when you talk about older people. Huh? Prof. Wang is over 80 and I'm
no, I mean no disrespect to the old.
So, Gungwu, can you answer his question?
No, I don't know. I think I was just as peaceful when I was young.
Okay. All right, let's have another question, please.
Okay, good evening, Prof. Koh and guests and everyone. I'm Yu Chuan. I'm a third-year architecture student from Tembusu College. It's my first time asking questions, so I'm very nervous. I'm sorry. But actually, I know nothing much about the Sino-Singapore relationship, so pardon my ignorance. But I'm from China. I immigrated to Singapore 18 years ago. Okay, so even though I know nothing much about this situation today, but every time I go home, I watch CCTV4 because my mom is forever playing it, and I hear every time I go home, I hear news about China reporting about the Sino-Japanese situation, and I understand it from a China perspective, and I really I understand everything from in the Chinese way. Yeah, but as much as I want to remain very neutral about this situation, there's something that puzzles me about Japan's attitude towards this situation, which I've yet gotten a very clear understanding, which is I understand that Japan, they are unwilling to face history, their own history, from such actions such as changing their history textbooks, such as not apologizing for their actions during World War II. Okay, I mean, I can understand China and Japan, they both have their own interests, but as a neutral party, myself, I feel that why is Japan not willing to, accept history as it is, and not willing to, I think that is one of the main reason why China people, especially the younger people like us, like me, we cannot understand Japan's perspective.
It's a good question.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a good question. Let's take two more questions. There was a lady here who wanted, you're over there. So let's take your question and then let's take another two questions.
Sure, thank you so much. My name is Ninja. I'm from Tembusu College and doing business and mastering public policy. My question, because I'm a Chinese national as well, my question is my personal long-term puzzle, actually adding on to each question.
You shouldn't say as well, because he's a Singaporean now.
Okay, sure. Sorry for my mistake. Yeah, but my long-term puzzle is that from my understanding, why some Japanese people do not feel the same way about war is because they also view themselves as victims of the war, especially due to the economic bombing in Japan. But Japan and U.S. actually have very good relationships and also security alliances despite the economic bombing. And so I'm wondering what was the event that made Japan can forgive in a way what U.S. did to them, but that was not present in the Japan and China relationship. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think only Prof. Wang can answer that. So Gungwu, I assigned that question to you. Why? I mean, the first question is a good one too. I'd like Professor Koga to answer the first question, which is why have the Japanese as a people such great difficulty in coming to terms with its own history? Okay. And the second question for Prof. Wang is, how do you explain the fact that Japan and the United States were enemies in World War II and they inflicted a lot of damage on each other, and yet they have become very strong allies, whereas China and Japan continue to view each other as enemies? Let's take one more question. Third question.
Good evening. I'm Peng Le from Sino-Japanese College. After the Tiananmen incident, the Chinese government became increasingly reliant on the army to stay in power. And unlike the old leaders like Mao Zedong and Deng Xiaoping, the new leaders do not have military experience. So is it possible that the military in China will become an independent and influential political voice in the future and influence China's political policy?
Thank you. That's a very good question. And that's really for Mr. Peh, because he knows China so well. So the question is the PLA still controlled by the party? Is there a danger that the PLA will become an independent actor in the Chinese polity? Yeah? So let's start with Professor Koga. Why do the Japanese have so much trouble coming to terms with its history?
Thank you very much for the question. I think you are asking the right question, and then I'm also asking the same question to the Japanese too. But first, actually, I think easy answer is because Japan is democracy. I mean, there are many opinions, and so that we didn't actually have the consensus on the history issues. But that was kind of for me, it's a really superficial kind of the answer. And what I was thinking about is that we didn't actually talk much about after the World War II. So, okay, so for example, it's just my personal kind of experience. But when I was I got the education in the Japanese elementary school, or junior high, or even high school, we actually learned history, but we didn't actually learn much about the World War II. And then when I learned